All right, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Powerful Perspectives, where we bring you entrepreneurs, business people, world changers. We got some athletes lined up, some celebrities coming on the show here. And as always, I always tell you guys that I got a real treat for you. But today, I've got somebody who is a personal friend, somebody who I am very familiar with his story, what he has been able to build in business, and currently facing some adversity. And so this will be a unique episode where you guys get to look with a firsthand lens into somebody's life who has created a massive amount of success, but is facing something right now that is very interesting, especially the irony of what he is facing is directly related to the profession that he operates in. And so this is going to be an interesting and powerful interview. I'm glad you guys are here with us. Welcome to another episode of Powerful Perspectives. Let's get started. It is ultimately important for you to look at your goals, truly what you want to do in your life, and then look at the people who you spend the most time with in your life and figure out if that lines up. All right, man. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Brian. Thank you.
So to those of you who are listening, I am excited and honored to be able to welcome my buddy and my own personal chiropractor, Dr. Shawn Finn. And man, I don't even know. You might have it in my records over there when I started coming to you, but I was just a little pup way back then. Not to age you, but I was I was a much younger man when I started coming to Finn Chiropractic. That's for sure. And man, it's just been a pleasure watching you build what you've built, getting to know your family. You have an incredible wife, incredible children, and have just, built a business that has helped. I can't even tell you how many people that I know personally that I have sent your way, and just the things that you've been able to do for people's health and general well-being have been exceptional. So I'm honored and excited to have you, man, and can't wait to dig into your story here.
Thank you. Brian, I could say exactly the same thing about you. And how your business success has evolved, and you have a wonderful family. And one of the really cool things for me, it's always when a patient trusts me with the health of his children. It's one thing to trust, that trust that you give me for your health, but when you bring your little ones in to get chiropractic adjustments, firstborn, newborns, you and your love with Lori are just, it's really cool how. For me, that's like one of the best parts of my job. 100%.
Yeah, and just for everybody that's listening that might not understand what he's saying, I'm talking like less than a week old. Our babies have been in the hands of Dr. Finn, and it's amazing just the difference in a baby, right? Of how they sleep and some of the things they have. Not for nothing, but going through a birth canal has got to be a pretty intense experience there. So like. Getting them to a chiropractor early on is super important. But and dude, I trust you with my own life, my kids' lives, and anybody else in the world that needs to feel better and have better chiropractic health, man. This is definitely your guy. So, but let's dig in, man. Let's go back to, childhood. What is it like growing up, in your family? What's the background? Kind of take me through the dynamic of what your life is like, maybe going up through high school.
So I would say I had a pretty normal upbringing, grew up in, I would say maybe a classic middle class upbringing, dual income, both mom and dad worked. And I grew up in West Deer Township, like Deer Lakes High School, small rural school. And it was fairly normal. We had a really nice upbringing. My parents made a good living. But it was kind of one of those deals where I saw a lot of times firsthand, like some of the struggles that my dad had working for a larger company. He worked for PNC and PNB Bank. Actually, it was Pittsburgh National Bank back in the day. And some of the struggles that he had, I got to see some of those things firsthand working for like a larger business. So we had a good upbringing, and, going through high school, I was an athlete. I played basketball. That was my deal. Like from fourth grade on, I loved playing hoops. And I played all the way up into high school. And then when I got to my senior year, I got injured, hurt myself, and things started to change. That was kind of when my life started to change. And I didn't really know it right then. But the injury that I had when I was a senior in high school it got things going in the direction that I'm in like right now. I actually it was ironic. It was a sprained ankle, and like I rolled my ankle, big, huge pop, and it was horrible. And back then, chiropractors could actually be team doctors within the WPIAL. There's been a rule that sadly changed, and we're not allowed to do that anymore. That's for orthopedic surgeons now. But the chiropractors were actually allowed to be team physicians. So our team physician was a chiropractor, and he took me to his office. And most painful, well, not the most painful. I'm going through that now, but to that point, it was like the most painful hour of my life. He like worked on my ankle, got the inflammation out of it, set it. He casted me, like my chiropractor, like put me in a cast for a week, and then took it off a week later, worked on it again, and I played. So, I mean, it was a gruesome, horrible sprained ankle, and I actually ended up playing on it. And so I never forgot that. And so then played hoops and went to college thinking that I was going to play hoops. And I wasn't that good. You know, it was just one of those deals. I think when you're an athlete in high school and you think you're really good, and you end up like that small fish in a big pond, I guess, is the way I would describe it. And I ended up only played my freshman year, didn't continue, but I never forgot what my chiropractor did for me. And that was when I started getting more serious about school and fitness and health. And I got deep into it. And I decided at that stage that I was going to go to chiropractic school. So it was that one experience, just that one, how he actually was able to heal me and get me moving with his hands. I didn't have to take any drugs. You know, he had no needles, no knives. I mean, he worked on me with his hands, and I was able to play a week after a really badly sprained ankle. That's what got me hooked. That's what I thought was just too cool.
Yeah, I think that would get anybody hooked, right? I mean, that's you know, for anybody who's been through any kind of physical challenges like that, you know, if you can make somebody feel better, like genuinely feel better, be more alert, just be able to operate, you know. I mean, I say this to you all the time when I come in, but if, you know, you ask me how I'm feeling and I say, you know, I can tell it's time, right? Like it depends on what I'm doing with my body. But if I'm, you know, traveling a lot or driving, or I'm, you know, seated for a lot of different things for a long period of time, those things matter. And when you can genuinely make somebody feel better, you know, and to your point, the added benefits of not having to take any drugs or anything like that to be able to do it, not have to have operations. That's huge. I mean, one of my closest friends is a non-surgical orthopedic in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I always say to him, like, man, everybody wants to see you. Right?
Yeah,
like
100%.
You know, nobody wants to see the doc that's going to tell them that they've got to go into surgery, right? It's, you know, it should be the last resort. And so that's awesome, man. So what did you go to undergrad for? What was your major when you went to school?
So ironically, I was an English major, believe it or not. Like it was one of those deals where like I got into it. I went to Washington and Jefferson, so small school, but very intensive pre-medical program. I mean, it was intense. Like you got thrown into the deep end of the pool. Like I think our median average was like a 50 on our first bio exam. Like it was just blow everybody out of the water and, you know, see who could survive. And so I was like, all right, you know, I really want to go to chiropractic school, but I still need to do all the studying for all the core stuff. So what I ended up doing was I knew I loved English because I loved reading, I loved writing, and I love speaking, communicating. So, and now that I'm saying this now, a lot of my life makes a lot of sense now. You knew this was going to happen, by the way. You knew this was going to happen. So, so I end up with an English major, bio minor. And then I ended up going on to chiropractic school, and I got my bachelor's in bio there, and then I got my doctorate at chiropractic school. So that makes a lot of sense, Brian, now that you got me talking.
Yeah, it's interesting how all the pieces come together when you start talking about it out loud, right? So,
Yeah.
where was chiropractic school? Where did you go?
So I went to National College, which was in Chicago, and this was, I'm going to date myself. I'm coming up on 24 years of practice.
It's
So,
all public information. Isn't it?
yeah, as my kids would say, you can tell based on the wrinkles and the receding hairline.
Yeah,
I always
or research
appreciate that.
online. Quick Google
Right.
search will
Yeah,
do a lot for you. Yeah.
absolutely. So, so Chicago, and at that time, in my opinion, anyway, it was the best chiropractic education that you could get. I mean, we had like the best in orthopedics and rehab, and those people and their level of professional, like the research professionals that were there, got me into the style of chiropractic that we practice now, which is evidence-based rehabilitation, chiropractic adjustments, like everything that we do in our office, you can actually read in a clinical journal, and it's been tested and tried. So like it is the stuff works. I mean, it definitely works. And I really enjoyed my time there. Loved Chicago, and really loved, it's like a big Pittsburgh is how I always describe it. But just absolutely loved it there.
Yeah. So, and how many years did you spend in Chicago then?
So we were there for 4 years. And so chiropractic school, the way they work, you do like either trimesters or quarters. It ends up being almost 4 years. It's like 3.5 years, 3 2/3 years. And the last like 6 months are your clinical rotations. So that's when you're in an outpatient clinic and you're starting to develop your clinical skills, starting to treat patients, and work with the general public.
So I'm interested in this part because I've never actually asked this question, but I've always been curious about it. When it comes to the medical field, specifically in chiropractic here, like, when you're in chiropractic school, they teach you, the technical nature of being a chiropractor, actually being able to help people get well. But how much do they touch on the business side of things? Do they actually take you through courses that help you be able to open a practice, or is that something that you have to learn on your own after the fact?
That one is on your own. It is completely on your own, sink or swim. Now I will say this much: back when I did it, that's the way it was. I do know now that a number of the chiropractic colleges do have courses, and they have curriculum that you can take, some classes that you can take. Not much though. I mean, not much. That's for sure. And I thought it would be a great idea to start my own practice right from scratch. That was my idea. So I went right after it, right out of the gate.
Well, I'll tell you what I think is a really great idea, and that would be for you to teach others how to do that.
Yes, and right. So I will say that I've learned a ton from just personal experience. I have along the way. I think we've talked about this. I've been blessed to work with a company called Integrity Doctors, which like they do. That's what we find a lot in our industry is consulting companies, right? And like we talked about, teaching others. And they helped me a lot along the way too. They did a really awesome job helping to fill in some of the gaps business wise. I worked with them and still work with them occasionally for like about 10 years. And so that really helped to fill in a lot of the gaps as well. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's business. I mean, it's probably equally as complicated as chiropractic school, right? I mean, it's like, there's a lot to learn. I mean, you're learning something every single day, I would imagine still.
Well, I think actually for me anyway, the chiropractic was the easy part. I mean and I don't want to say that, in a way that it's just easy, but treating patients, communicating, that is, to me, that is so much easier than business. Business is so complex and there are so many moving parts. And, growing up an athlete, I always feel like, okay, I think one of the reasons I love like physical fitness is it's really one of the only areas where like you get what you put into it is exactly what you get out of it, right?
Predictable results.
Yeah, if you eat clean for 3 months, you're gonna get ripped. With business, there's no guarantee, right? I mean, yes, you put the work in and you work hard, but there's so many variables, and especially when you have a team or organization that you're trying to lead and run. My goodness, it still makes me, I mean, it makes me really nervous now, especially. But it is, to me, it is so challenging. And I have such incredible respect for people like you and other people that I've been blessed to talk to and learn from. Just business success. Wow. You know, that to me, it's absolutely challenging and incredible. It's an incredible challenge. That's for sure.
Yeah, there are, you know, you mentioned the word, or you were explaining variable. There's so many variables to it, right? And that's,
Yes.
there is, you know, there's the things that, the things that you don't know, and the things that you don't know that you don't know, right? The things that you're aware that you don't know, but then there's a whole list of things that you don't even know that you don't know yet.
Oh my.
And, through education and experience, those things get less and less. And so it gets easier to achieve predictable results in business. Like when you get the plan down and you know how to run the play, it gets a lot easier to make those moves with confidence. One of my favorite quotes that I share with all the people that I coach is, it's impossible to get up every single day and do all the right things and get the wrong results.
Yeah.
But a caveat to that is you got to know what the right things are.
Yes.
Right. And that is, that's kind of step one in business. And so for those people out there who are listening, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that follow this podcast. That's the key is, mentorship, which is what you just mentioned, whether it be getting consulting from a company who's reliable, that's in your industry, familiar with how to grow and scale and things like that. Or just people, find those people that and trust that, are going to tell you the truth and are not going to lead you down a path of something they're not familiar with, right? Like, the people that you really trust that are really great mentors and advisors, they only advise you on the things they're an expert at, right? And that's some of the most dangerous advice is the uneducated that seems educated.
Yeah, no question. There's a lot of that out there. And I think, and I always find in my industry, and I may catch a little bit of heat for this, but I always find sadly that we're always my chiropractors at least are always grasping at straws, right? We're always like succeeding in chiropractic is challenge, and it's like any industry, right? It's always challenging, but I think it's very challenging to stick with it, right? I mean, it's, success in business is not 1 year or even 5 years. It is a concerted, focused effort, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, and not deviating from what you're really good at. Sadly, so many chiropractors jump into the next, they find a consultant and they tell them, hey, you need to integrate this $100,000 piece of equipment into your office. And that'll be the key. And you're going to attract all these new patients. And that's your key, right? You buy this equipment from me and buy my training and boom. And then, that'll last for a year. And then the consultant's going to come back and say, hey, you know what? No, it's not working. Let's do this one. Buy this equipment, buy this laser. Let's do this. Let's do that. So, and as I said, I know that there's a lot of guys in my industry who do that. And I don't believe in that. I just don't think, I think with chiropractic, I mean, we have our hands, right? God blessed us with this incredible skill of healing people with our hands. I always tell patients, I move the bones, God heals you. That's the way it works. I move the bones into position. He gave me the skills, but he's the one ultimately that's going to heal you. My goodness, low overhead right here, right? No overhead. I don't need to buy a piece of equipment. I just need a table. And I think that's something in our industry that, man, if we could just figure that out, I think the medical doctors will get a little nervous, right? Because they'd start running out of business.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I think, there's another thing that's really common in our business, in the asphalt, paving, and concrete space or construction in general. I think that a lot of people get seduced by success, which means like, you start making some money and, you're financially successful. And so you start thinking you're doing everything right just because financial success is attached to it. And I, often tell people like, don't use that as your measure of success, or at least not the only measure. That can be a determining factor. Certainly financial outcomes are great, but it seems like maybe it would be the same in your space, right? Where people can, come out, they start making a little bit of money and they might get a little overconfident that, they're doing things right. And so those plateaus when it comes to business are really challenging, right? Like, you go from, A to B, and that works well. Well, what got you from A to B is not the same thing that will get you from B to C for sure. And that takes, again, different mentorship, different guidance, things like that. So when did you, at what point in your journey did you meet your wife?
So we actually met in undergrad. So we met in undergrad, and she actually dated one of my friends, and they ended up breaking up. And as she tells it, she saw me first, which I like to make sure everybody knows that. Yeah, I mean, we were friends first. Like, we became friends first. This was like, oh goodness, I'm trying to think. It was like 1988, 1989, something like that. And so we had this shared love of the band Genesis, right? Phil Collins and, Mama and Home by the Sea and Tom Petty. Those were like we had this common love of these bands and this music. And so, like, I remember the first night we just hung out and talked for like 6 hours, and we literally just sat. It was a snowstorm. We sat in her car. She had this brown Honda Prelude, really cool car. And we just like sat in her car and just did nothing but talk and talked and talked and talked and became such great friends. And then started to date. And then we ended up, Christy, she was a year or two ahead of me in school. So she got a job with Ernst & Young. She's an accountant, much smarter than me, way smarter than I am, especially when it comes to business. And so she worked for Ernst & Young. I finished up at W&J and then went to school in Chicago. And then she came out, we got married, and she actually worked for Wilson Sporting Goods out in Chicago. It was pretty cool. Wow. Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, that was the second coming of Michael Jordan, right? So the second 3 championships that he won. And that was when Wilson was really huge with like John Daly before he lost his mind. He was a big guy for them. So it was awesome. I mean, we went to sporting events, went to Bears games and Bulls games and Blackhawks. And I mean, I don't know. She doesn't like sports. I don't know how how that worked out, but she liked sitting in the good seats that she got from work. I think that was it, probably more than anything. She still likes going and sitting in the good seats. So.
Well, and it worked to get you, so that's an advantage.
I don't know, man. I think like all of us, we all feel like we outkicked our coverage on our marriages. So
most definitely. I feel the same way, without a doubt. Well, I'll tell you what, man. Knowing how you two interact now and just what you've been able to build together, not just business, but in life and family, it totally makes sense that you were friends first and just had that, like, you still have that dynamic to this day where it's like, you can just tell that you guys are genuinely good friends, like that you really respect each other. You both kind of know your roles and stay in those lanes. Yes. And your wife's incredible, man. She's one of the kindest people I've ever met. And that radiates through your office. And that is, I think I've said this to you before, but when I go into businesses, I'm a culture guy, right? So I always look around and try to see, what's going on. It's just a natural instinct. And it's from day one, man. It's like, it's like walking into ChickfilA, right? Just everything kind of has its order. Everybody's super polite. There's just an energy about it. And that comes from both of you, right? It's not, that's not something that, can be created without genuinely caring for people, without genuinely having a good culture. Those things are very easy to detect, whether it's forced or not, right? And in your office, and it's always, no matter who's there, right? New people come in, it's always the same. And so that's commendable to both of you to be able to create that, not just once, but over and over and over again, and create an environment where people feel welcome walking into a doctor's office, when in a lot of cases it might be unfamiliar to people, right? Like, if they're coming in to see a chiropractor for the first time, there's probably a little bit of jitters that go along with that, right? And so to be able to take those away, man, that's a gift that not many offices have.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I got chills when you compared us to Chick-fil-A. So that's like one of my favorite, incredible Christian organization and great leadership. And so, but thank you. That's very kind. I appreciate that. And I agree. That's team, I agree. Christy she is the kindest person that I know. Like, she is the sweetest and kindest person that I know. And yeah, that comes from her, and it comes from our team, right? We've just got incredible leadership and just solid people, just like really good people who care about those patients that come through the door. I think that's, in any business that you're in, when you talk about culture, it's all about service, right? You want to serve, you want to help the people that are coming, whether it's pavement or it's chiropractic or it's chicken sandwiches. What type of service can we provide? How can we help you have a better day? Feel better. What types of things can we help you with? So that's always in our mindset. How can we care for you?
No doubt, man. And you can definitely feel it. So you make the crazy decision to start a chiropractic office right out of school.
Literally, I graduated in December of 97, and we opened our doors April of 98. And
you had plenty of time to prepare.
Oh, tough. I mean, it was, oh my Lord Almighty. And when I talk about making mistakes in business, my goodness, right? That's some of those mistakes can be a little expensive at times, right? Yeah. So we opened in April, and I still remember the first day that I saw over 20 patients. Like, I still remember that day because the woman that I had who was answering my phones, she had surgery. So I was by myself. So I had a portable phone, and I was like an old portable phone.
Cordless phone. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was cordless. Yeah. And so I'm like running around, but I saw like 25 people, and that was August of that summer. So, we had a lot of success early, which was just luck. I mean, that's just like, to me, that's just like dumb luck. We opened in Seven Fields, which was a good location, right? It was a good neighborhood, lots of nice people there, lots of families. So, yeah, I mean, we were just very, very fortunate, very fortunate.
So was your first office in pretty close to where you are now?
Yeah, it was, if you're familiar, well, I guess it's now called the GOAT, where,
yes.
What you used to write SEBA, and,
yep.
So yeah, so we were actually in the professional buildings behind that little plaza, and we were there for about 4 or 5 years. And then we moved up into, when they built that plaza, and Christy she had a couple jobs, and then she ended up working for the developer over there. And so she worked with the developer and ran her office and did her finances. So when, they were looking at that front property, they said, hey, would you consider being a tenant up there? So we did, which was a great move. That was a great location, a great spot for us. And we were there. And then we decided to move down the street to where we are now on 228.
Yeah, no, it's both great locations, right? I mean,
yes.
When it comes to exposure, it doesn't get much better than where you're at. That's for sure.
Yeah, they're good spots. And it's interesting. Like, I think we had this conversation too, like, they're great locations, but now I'm looking at it and saying, okay, business has changed since COVID, and business has evolved, how people find us. So I'm taking a deep dive into that and trying to figure out.
They find you like this now.
Exactly.
Not by looking up at signs. Most people,
right?
if they're sitting at the stoplight that's in front of your building, they're probably staring at their phone more often than they're staring at the sign, right?
100%. So that's the evolution of business, and that's what I'm studying and trying to get my hands on.
So how long have you been in business total?
So it'll be 24 years in April. So I have my shingle. My father-in-law was really cool. He had an old cottage, and it's an actual real shingle, and he painted it for me. And so April 6th, 1998. So April 6th of 22, it'll be 24 years in business.
Wow, amazing, man. And what would you say if you're looking back to, the very beginning days to now? What's the one thing that stands out as like the biggest challenge, the biggest lesson, the biggest maybe period of adversity or anything like that you've faced from a business standpoint?
Well, not including right now, because right now is I would say it's number one. But leading up to this point, I think that, to your point, not having business training in school and understanding the ins and outs of it. I think, chiropractors we're small business owners, we're entrepreneurs. And you don't really have the security of, say, a hospital system where you can learn, the billing and the coding and all those things. So I think that's really, for me, it's been, staying laser focused on all of those things, because there's so many variables, there's so many things that change on a regular basis. And I think that's probably been the biggest thing for me. Like growing up, like I just didn't have that skill set, that mindset of what to do in business. So a lot of it has been trial and error, and with that comes mistakes and comes some pain and comes some friction. So I think for me, to this point at least, that's really been it. And understanding that as a chiropractor up until this point, this business needs me here. Right. I have to be here. I have to be treating patients. And if I'm doing that, I'm not looking at the business from the top down. Right. I'm an owner operator. So I have, in hindsight now, looking at it, that's really, I think, been the biggest thing, is you can't ever get ahead if you're always playing catch up.
Yeah, no doubt. I just, I was just telling this story earlier, but I think it's relevant to what we're talking about here. Is, I remember, being a kid, I was never really into reading. Like, it didn't excite me, like I could read fiction stories, things like that. And it was cool. Like, we had all had to do it for school and write book reports.
Yeah.
But when I got into, adult business, I started to figure out that self-education was one of the most powerful things in life that I have encountered.
Yeah.
And, what I think I'm hearing from you is like, and I know how obsessed you are with reading now, like, how disciplined you are about reading. How did reading impact your journey and growth in business over the years?
So this started probably 12 years ago, 10 years ago. I met someone who became a really good friend, and she has an office in Kentucky. And she is the first person that ever turned me on to John Maxwell. And so that was kind of like my first true, leadership business reading was John Maxwell. And no
wonder you got hooked.
Right, I know, right? He is incredible, absolutely incredible. Our friend Simon got to meet him. Right, he got to meet him, I think, last year, a couple of years ago, maybe pre-COVID. But so John Maxwell, reading him, and so reading has completely changed everything. Because I read it surprisingly, that when you read a book, you're actually getting 50 to 60 years of experience every book that you read, in a nonfiction sense, right? So you're getting 50 to 60 years of that person's experience. I think Teddy Roosevelt read, like, I don't know, 1,000 books or something crazy like that. When he died, they found him laying in his bed, and underneath his pillow was a book, right? I mean, a book that he was reading. And so that's all I've learned. It's been firsthand experience, and then it's been just a voracious love of reading. I always loved reading fiction as a kid, but I can't remember the last time I read a fiction book. Like, I love reading. Man, I mean, COVID, I think I read 5 books. That during like a couple of month period, I read Ray Kroc's autobiography, Grinding It, I think. You just cannot get enough information. There's such a wealth of information out there at our fingertips, and you get so much experience just from reading.
But what an age that we live in, man, that, like, whether you're ordering books, like, you don't even have to go to the bookstore anymore.
No.
Whether you're ordering from Amazon, Barnes and Noble, whoever your, supplier of choice is, like, you can download it on your phone. If you're in a real hurry, you can listen to it through Audible or some other audio service, or you can just have the book delivered right to your door. And, for those people who are listening, I ask this question a lot, because I don't know anybody that's successful, that has lasted the test of time, that is not a reader. And so for those people who are watching or listening, who, may still be hesitant, or they're not reading enough, find time in your day, in your weeks, to read. It will pay enormous dividends. So family wise, man, how did How did it change you as a business owner or in the professional sense when you had your first child?
It was kind of crazy. I really, you weren't playing for yourself anymore, right? When I think before you have kids, it was really about Christy and I, and it was go 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 go, and it was that success drive. And yeah, I mean, when you have a child, to me, it just changes everything. All of a sudden, um, there's another person who's just depending on you, and that person needs you, and so that really completely changed my perspective. That I, even though I was serious about my job, um, I had to get that much more serious, about being successful and about being able to provide for him more than I ever dreamed of, more than I ever had. And that's really, I think all of us as parents want that, right? We want our children to experience and maybe not go through some of the things that we went through growing up. But yeah, I mean, it totally changed my perspective on everything in life, 100%.
Yeah, in an instant, man. I
Yeah.
say, like,
Yep.
that little baby comes out and you realize in that instant, like, this little child literally cannot exist without me.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it cannot survive without me. And I think that, entrepreneurship is complicated, right? Entrepreneurship with one child, 2, 3, 4, however many people have, like, it gets increasingly more complicated to balance it all. And so I think, for me, it is created, and you use the word, it shifts your perspective. It's created a different perspective for me of what's important, what priorities are. It's the ability to refocus in a minute, to really be reminded. I use this example often because for me, like when I walk into my house every day, it's like party time. Like when I walk in, they're so excited. And that for me, man, is like, I'm reminded every single day of why I do what I do,
100%.
and the fuel that burns that fire that keeps it going. It's right in front of me, man. All I have to do is be present, not be on the phone when I walk in the house.
Yeah.
Be in that position to receive the love and the fuel that keeps it burning. Right. And I think it's so important for people that are out there, when you have that balance, man, there's nothing like it, when you can actually achieve that balance. And I think I might have used this analogy with you before, but balance for me, I always compare when people ask me about balance, I say, have you ever tried to ride a bike really slow?
Right.
It's real wobbly and
Yeah.
you can't keep it upright. It's real, it just doesn't feel right. Balance for me, man, is the faster the bike goes, the more comfortable I feel. Right.
100%.
And so in every aspect, I'm trying to go fast, and that's what makes me have comfort. But with that speed, you have to have awareness to everything else that requires you to just be present. Because if you're flying on that bike and you're not paying attention, one little rock will take you down in a big way, right? So
yeah. Well, and I think for us having the team at home, even, and I tell the story all the time, when Hudson, my oldest, was first born. We were going through a little rocky patch at the office. I mean, we just, I made some mistakes in business and we were struggling a bit. I mean, I brought that baby home with Christy and I went to the office that day. Like it was that, and those, I'll never forget. Like she was like, what am I going to do now? Right. I'm like, I don't know. We're going to have to figure this out together. I'm like, I'll be home in a few hours, but I got to go treat some patients. And that seriousness, like, as an entrepreneur, at least at that point in my business, I really couldn't take a lot of time off. And so that was hard, and that's all Christy. I mean, she's the glue, she's the rock, she's the one that held it all together during that period of time when I was able to go back out and, okay, I'm going to go hunt some more. I'm going to go try and build some more of the business and grow more. And she always did that, and we did have an incredible support system. My mom helped her, my mother-in-law helped. Like there was that support system, but she ultimately was the one she's the glue, as I'm sure you would say the same thing about Lori. They're the ones that just keep it all together.
Yeah. And that's, I think, almost everybody. In fact, I can't think of anybody that I've met that has created a successful business that is married that doesn't have that, right? They say they have your back more than they're on your back. And that is, that is something that is not easy to find, but when you do, success is created out of that, right? Like, there's no way that any individual could create something without, when people say, I said this when I was talking to Simon the other day in our interview, I said, when people say I'm self-made, I may not laugh out externally, but I'm laughing inside thinking, how shallow of a person. And what a shame if that's the truth.
Yeah, there is definitely no such thing. In your industry, in my industry, I'm most nights I'm not home before 7. I mean, it's very rare that I'm home because we have to be here when people, can come in after work, and very rarely are we out of here before 7 o'clock most nights. And yeah, I mean, Christy, just go do it. Just go to work. And she's working too. I mean, that's the crazy thing is she's working as well. And brother, you got now, how many kids do you have? Like 12? No, 4. You have 4, right? Yeah. Yeah. It feels like 12, right?
Yeah, so, most definitely. 4 under 9 definitely feels like 12.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's crazy. So it is a nonstop thing, but that person, there is definitely no such thing as a self-made individual. There's no way. It takes a team.
No question. So let's dig into the current situation here a little bit. So, to give you guys, I tried to lay out the story of, length of time in business, created by anybody's definition, an exceptionally successful practice, not just from a financial standpoint, but as I explained, a cultural standpoint, a great team. You've got, great team members, just all in all, a great situation. But life has an interesting way of throwing us curveballs, right? Just when we think, we've got it figured out, sometimes the greatest gifts that we get are sometimes wrapped in very strange packages, as I told you a few weeks ago. And I think, this is a great example for people that, a lot of people go through life and they think, life is, man, from the outside in, it just looks great, and by most people's definitions that walk into your office, it probably seems a lot easier than it is, right? You've created something that is a successful business. You can feel that when you walk in. People see your family. They see the success that you've created. But you've been dealt an interesting scenario, especially being a chiropractor, having a scenario with your own chiropractic health, with your own back, that has really restricted you. Can you give everybody a little bit of background on, kind of how things have transpired and what kind of situation you're facing now?
Sure. So I've dealt with back pain off and on my entire adult life for the most part. I have a couple conditions actually in my lower back that are genetic, and one's called a spondylolisthesis, which means that one of the bones in my back is not fused to all the other ones. And so it can shift and move a little bit. And then I also have a mild case of spina bifida as well in my lower back. So these are genetic things. This is the way I was born. And so it's always given me some trouble. And I have really dedicated myself to being as physically fit as possible. Right. I've tried to, stay healthy and flexible and strong, and primarily because of those conditions, as well as knowing that my profession, most guys or women blow out a shoulder, they hurt their lower back, right? They have some sort of an injury. So I've always tried to keep myself in as good a physical shape as I can. Well, it's just, my back has just progressively gotten worse over the last probably 5 years. And honestly, my ego, I will admit this, my ego, I wasn't stopping. I continued to treat. Didn't matter that I was getting worse and worse lower back pain. I started to get numbness and tingling into my lower extremities, into my feet. There was a lot of periods of time when I would be treating for, all day, and my feet would just be totally numb. Like I wouldn't feel them by the end of the day. And so that progressively got worse and worse, so much so that at the beginning of this year, I love to lift weights. And I just decided, you know what? I was out walking the dog, and my legs were just like tingling. They were on fire first thing in the morning. And so I said, okay, I'm going to start lifting. I'm going to stop lifting heavy weights. So I cut back and made some changes to my routine. I dropped some weight, thinking that was going to help. And this entire time, I've been getting chiropractic care. I've been getting adjusted, right? I've been doing all those things. And what's crazy is it was actually sustaining me, right? I was still able to continue to perform at a high level because I was receiving care, because I had done all those things. But this summer, the pain just continued to get worse and worse. And about 8 weeks ago, we had a situation where our flight got canceled. We were on vacation, so I had to drive home from Myrtle Beach, which isn't that big of a deal, 9 hours, unless you have bulging discs in your lower back and a spondylolisthesis and spina bifida and numb feet. So I did that. But then because I was away, I had a ton of patients that next Monday. So I, got up, did my workout, didn't stop. And that week was one of the longest and hardest weeks of my life. Like, the pain just intensified to just a crazy level. My legs were numb, my feet were numb. I managed to make it a whole nother week. And then on the one Monday, ironically, it was the Monday after we dropped my boys off at school, at college. They both went to college this year on campus. And I treated patients, and I didn't sleep that entire night. Like, I did not wake Christy up to ask her to take me to the hospital, but I was pretty close. The pain was so intense, and the extremity symptoms in my legs, the symptoms in my legs were so bad. So I have a buddy who's an orthopedic, another one of those guys who doesn't do a lot of surgeries. And I texted him and said, when you wake up, call me. I mean, I don't even remember what time it was, middle of the night, middle of the morning. And so he called me, got me in, got an MRI, and it turns out that I have bulging discs, and all the discs in my lower back have bulges in them. And the last one is severely damaged, and it's creating pinching on the nerves in my lower back down in that area that goes into both of my legs. So it's pretty bad stuff, pretty bad stuff.
And so, anybody hearing you describe that, especially anybody that's going to work every day can relate to, what it feels like in that moment, especially being somebody that's worked 23 years to build a business.
Yes.
And so the challenges, mentally that come along with, facing something like that. What are some of the thoughts that you have in those moments where you're like, at this point that it's serious enough that you've got to make some changes, and now, I think you can look back and say, like, there's probably extreme thoughts, like,
yeah,
holy smokes, what am I going to do? Like, this is the end of the world, potentially, to now having some time to process that and realize, that it is about, just making changes, right? What is that like from when it happened to now? How has that been to process all that?
I mean, that night, that one night that I'll never forget as long as I live, I figured I wasn't going to be able to walk my daughter down the aisle. Like, I was like, that's what I'm laying there, 2:00 in the morning thinking, like, I'm going to be in a wheelchair. Like, I know enough about the spine to know that this is trouble. And, and to that from that extreme to now, it really, it completely flipped my perspective as far as what it means to work hard and what you have to do. Like, 23 years, I think I might have missed maybe one day because I was throwing up. Like, and I think that I treated patients, I hate to say this, but I think I treated patients that day and literally, like, walked out the back door and drove home and threw up. And then I was in the next day. I had surgery on my back, and I asked them to double stitch me so I could go back to the office. And I did. Like, they stitched me, and I went back she was like, you're going to need to be off for about a week. I'm like, no, I'm going back to the office today. You're going to have to stitch me deep. So they did. So yeah, I mean, it's just extreme. It's just this crazy extreme mindset that I've always had, I guess, about pushing myself physically. that I really I need to push myself now mentally. I think that's really something that I've learned, that that I can actually be more powerful and help more people in this world. Talking to you right now, being in my office, while there's other doctors doing the adjustments and helping people, I can impact many more people, not being the one doing the physical work. And I'm not there. I'm there and I'm not there. Like it's an ongoing process. I'm continually coming to grips with it, that, what, I'm not really going to be able to treat patients like I have. I just can't. It's not going to be good for my health. It's not going to be good for the patients either, because I'm not going to be able to deliver the service that they're used to. I'm not going to be able to grind like that, 12, 14 hours a day, 5-6 days a week. It just doesn't. It's not going to be good for me, and it's not going to be good for them. But I know deep inside that it's going to be better. It's going to be better for them. It's going to be better for me. And again, I'm going to be able to help more people. So it's taken a little bit to get to this point, though. That's for sure.
It's not just these that don't have any overhead, bro. This doesn't either.
Right. That's the truth. And it's, Brian, having spent some time with you helped me tremendously. I've spent a lot of time in prayer over the last 8 weeks. I mean, everything from God, why, I just want to be able to go play a round of golf with my boys. Like, they keep on asking me, Dad, when are you going to be back? When are you going to get back? And, I start every morning with prayer and scripture and reading the Bible. And I continue to do that. But then I would go right down to my basement and sweat, for an hour, and it would clear my head. And I can't do that anymore. I still do my scripture work and my prayer and my devotional. Now I go for a walk, so it's really changed that, but it's been good, because I've always relied on my physical, right? I've always relied on my physical presence. I'm strong. I have good hands. Like I've adjusted guys who, there's some guys that I've adjusted and they've been like, oh my goodness, that is the best adjustment that I've ever had in my life. But you know what? I can only help so many people. I can only do so many adjustments myself. So now, yeah, I do. I have to rely on this and this in my mouth to be able to positively impact more people, to fulfill our purpose, which is relieve pain, restore mobility, and maintain health for the entire Pittsburgh area. So, yeah, it's been incredibly difficult, incredibly challenging. I'd be lying if I said that I was all the way there, that I still don't. I had a bad night last night. I had a bad night. I didn't sleep well. My nerves were fired up in my back and my legs. I just didn't feel good. And it was all because I slept in an extra hour on Sunday morning. Like, I didn't get up at 5 a.m. on Sunday. I slept in a little bit, and I can't do that. So yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm getting there. Having friends like you and doing this is helping me tremendously. But I'm not quite there yet. I'm getting there, though.
It is a process, man. And to hit on one thing that you said there, I was one of those guys that said, like, man, I'm not going to anybody else but Dr. Finn. I refuse to see anybody else. And there was a situation where I shared this with you at lunch. Like, I was in a crunch. I couldn't get in with you for whatever reason. I think you might have been out of town or something. And I ended up going to one of the other docs, and I said, damn, man, he's pretty good.
Yeah, right. That's,
and I said to you, I was like, dude, I know this is probably awkward, like, because it's your goal and what you want,
right,
is to be able to teach other people and have other people in your practice that are equally as talented to deliver care for people as you are. And I can say honestly, man, that number 1, 2, and 3, when it comes to my experience with chiropractic, has all been from the docs that are in your offices. And that's not easy, right? Like, when people duplicate anything in business or in healthcare or whatever it is, it's not easy to do. And so that is a testament to you, to put your mind at ease, man, that like, it's not just your hands that are the gifts that you have. You're one of the most brilliant dudes I've met. And so you just got to get used to that shift. And, I was joking around before we got on here, but I said, the topic of the word pivot in general is thrown around quite a bit. Right. But I think for the most part that it's not truthful when people use it. Right. It's more of a shift than a pivot. Yeah. What you're going through is a true pivot. It's a true redirection to somewhere else. Yeah. And one of the things that we talked about at lunch was, I think that, for somebody in your position, it's a matter of when this happens. It's not a matter of if, right?
100%.
You're being presented this with a timeline that's probably a little different than what you would request. Yes. But the reality of the scenario is that there's a point in your life, being that this podcast is about shifting people's perspective. I would challenge you to say that what a gift it is to figure this out early, that you can now teach and educate and guide so many more people with the knowledge that you've been able to create in 23 years. Because if you really think about it, the work that you've put in 23 years physically is an entire career.
Yeah.
For most.
Yeah.
And so now God is saying to you, like, okay, Shawn, good job, good and faithful servant.
Yeah.
Now it's time to take what you have learned, take what you know with your hands, and show other people how to start the healing.
I think, Brian, that resonated especially a couple of years ago when my boys said they wanted to go to chiropractic school. Right? I have 3 kids, 2 sons and a daughter, and my 2 sons they're college age. They're in Slippery Rock right now. And when they said that, it was like, oh, whoa, okay, like, wow, all right. So they are basing the rest of their lives, their career on this, on what we built and what we're doing. And so. Yeah, I think we all go through those moments where we say, okay, if I go back and do it again, right? If I go back and do it again, right? That's human nature to do that. And those are things that as successful people, we have to constantly block out. Like, you never want to say that, like, oh, if I could go back and do it again, but it's human nature. We all do it. And so, I really believe, again, that things do happen for a reason. We talked about the hinge, right? There's a hinge in everybody's life, and it's how you choose to view that hinge, whether or not it opens the door or whether or not that hinge is rusty and that door stays locked and stays shut. You have to have confidence. You have to have belief. You have to have faith and trust that God is leading you. I mean, I believe that God is leading my life. I'm not, he is 100% in charge, because if he was, if I was in charge, I would have lifted weights this morning, ridden my Peloton, and I'd be going golfing later on this week if I was in charge, no question. But I really believe that if this hadn't happened, I know for a fact that Finn Chiropractic would never, ever reach its true potential. Right. I mean, and there's no way, because he has my attention now. Like, he's always had my attention. I've always believed, but I don't want to say I'm like, I sometimes I call them like calamity Christians, right? Catastrophic Christians, where like our faith becomes really, really strong when the chips are down, right? When the chips are good, yes, we're faithful and we're good people, but I don't know if I'm as faithful, if I'm on my knees in prayer, sweating blood, like Jesus, whenever things are going really good. So he has my attention, and I am bound and determined to use this as a hinge, as a platform, as a vehicle to change the spinal health of as many people as will listen to me in Pittsburgh. And if it takes, other states, then so be it, because I don't want anybody to go through what I've been through. This is no way to, I can understand why people get addicted to prescription narcotics. I really can. I think that anyone who's ever dealt with severe back trouble, severe back pain, I can get it. I totally understand. People who get addicted are not weak people. They are normal human. They are our friends, our neighbors, people you go to church with, people you know. Um, it is all consuming,
They're just
and
looking for an
yeah.
escape,
Oh my
just
gosh!
a
I mean,
momentary
it's
escape. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And and I've done a lot of reading about the Navy SEALs, right? And they talk all the time about like pain is your friend, right? Pain, when you're a Navy SEAL, pain lets you know that you're still alive. That if you're feeling pain, then it keeps you awake. It prevents you from like becoming complacent. It keeps that edge. But if it becomes too much, right, and you can't use it as a hinge, as a pivot point. I mean, I'm blessed that I can do this, right? I mean, I can. We talk about pivoting. We had to hire a doctor very quickly in a situation where, I mean, with COVID, people are not clamoring, right? I mean, there are not a lot of guys looking for jobs, not a lot of gals looking for jobs. So we had to pivot very quickly. And again, I'll go back to Christy. This happened, and it took about a week or so, and we just decided, what, I'm not going to be able to go back the way I was. So she's like, okay, let's find another doc. Start looking. Okay, so, and we did. We found another doctor, got him hired quickly, got him started. He's treating patients. Boom, boom, boom. I'm blessed, right? I can do that. Not everybody can do that, with their job. Not everybody has that opportunity and that ability. So I am starting to see the blessings. I am starting to see the silver linings. I love it to be faster. I'm not a patient person, but this happened for a reason. There's no question. You and I would not be having this conversation most likely had this not occurred. And so you'd have probably been in for an adjustment a week or two ago, and business as usual. And but I pray that this impacts somebody positively. And I will just say, please, my goodness, listen to your doctor. I didn't really do a very good job of listening to my doctors, and I continued to push through and do things. I would urge you to listen to your doctor. That's for sure.
Well, I'll tell you what I think the redirect is, man. You just kind of summarized it in a quick thing there, probably without even realizing it. But you got two boys that are going to get into chiropractic, man. It's going to take a big chiropractic group to be able to create great lives for everybody.
100%.
We face that quite a bit in the construction business, because a lot of owners will have kids that end up getting into the business.
Yeah.
And then they struggle with the expansion of how do I support all this, right? Now I've got grandkids that are going to depend on how good of a teacher I am for my children's success. And so when you think about that, it's forcing you to start to plan for that scenario that likely you wouldn't have planned for. Like, they would have come into the business, you would have shown them the way, but it would have been a reactive state instead of a proactive state. And, what a gift, man, to have a couple years, handful of years to prepare and grow for them to be able to, step into a great situation. So,
and I would say too that having a team like we have 2 office locations, and I mean, our doctors, you want to talk about sucking it up. I mean, they sucked up a lot, and they took over a lot of my patients. And because 80 to 90% of the patients were like, okay, I'll see Dr. Allegra, I'll see Dr. Walker. And they did, they sucked it up. The staff pivoted. They got people moved, and we adjusted my schedule, and, all of this happened very, very quickly. And so, yeah, to your point, there's no question. It would have been a reactive situation. I would have stayed with what's easy, with what feels good and what's comfortable. But because I am definitely not comfortable right now, I'm not in my comfort zone. But I'll tell you what, man, I think I've read three books. I think I've read 3 books in 8 weeks. And I've got another one going right now, and it's like, I'm doing it on audio, I'm reading it, and it's all business development. Like, it's okay. How can we because now we have a new doctor. So he needs to get busier, and and we have to grow and help him. So how can we do that? How can we, find new ways to grow? And it's awesome. I think that I'm getting stimulated. Like I'm relishing the challenge. I'm starting to gear up for it. When I was praying last night, I said to God, I was like, hey, listen, okay, what's a good time frame? How long is this really going to be? Like, how long can you tell me, like, how long until I can start lifting again? Like, how can you, and
That's funny, man. I'm not sure that God wears a watch.
really?
I'm not sure that's how that works, but it's entertaining that that's what you were asking.
Right. I mean, I'm being very honest. I am sharing a lot here with everyone. But I was like, what do you think? Can you give me a time frame? And what's interesting is the time frame that he and I came up with was 5 years. Like I really believe that, that I've got this like 5, for whatever reason. That's what stood out to me last night as I was praying. Like, it came to me like, you know what, man, you've always said, okay, like, how can I devote all of my energy to the business? Well, guess what? You got it, brother. Here it is. And so that's what I came up with. It was 5 years. That was what he came up with last night. So
Good,
I don't know.
good.
We'll have to see.
I would assume that that's a flexible timeline, but it's a good starting point, right?
Yeah, I don't even want to go to like some of the timelines in the Bible. I don't want to go to the Moses timeline. I don't know that I have that amount of time, but yeah, I think it's. I figured I would share that today, that I did ask him how long, if he could give me
I got some stuff that I've been waiting on too. I'm going to ask tonight too.
Tell me how
what that looks like.
Yes.
I'll let you know what he says when I ask. If I get a clear answer, I'll be sure to share it with you.
I would appreciate that.
Any advice, man? What are the biggest, maybe 2 or 3 lessons that this scenario has taught you? I know that we've talked a little bit about, a lot of the lessons, but the things that really stand out, because I know it's not just business related, right? It's all encompassing when you go through this. What are the top couple of things that come to mind that really you have been able to gain perspective? The gems that come out of tough situations are extremely valuable for other people to be able to learn. What is a couple of those that come to mind?
Number one, love your spouse, right? Love your family, love them unconditionally. And when you, like, I don't want to get too emotional here, but Christy, not one time in this entire situation did she say to me, "I told you so," or did she say to me, "You shouldn't have done that," or "You should have known when to quit," or "You should have backed off," or she is never judged. And I think that, unconditional love is something that, we talk about, and it's great to see on a Hallmark card, and, we talk about it in vows, but I mean, true unconditional love, when you have that in your marriage and your life, my goodness, give it back, and give it back tenfold, because there's in providing that to someone who's going through something difficult, it helps them so much. It helps them tremendously. You feel no guilt. I can focus on just getting better and getting well and getting my head right. So that's one thing. And the other thing I think that and I'll go more to the physical side is really just, you really truly need to take care of yourself, right? And I'm gonna lapse into to my purpose and what I do, but back pain is about 80% of our population is going to suffer from back pain at one time or another. Take it seriously, right? It doesn't matter if it's just that tug that you feel when you're doing some yard work, or get it checked out. Work on some things. Get yourself in a physical state that's healthy, and stay on top of it, because like I've missed stuff. I've missed things with my family. I've missed, Christy and I just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. We were supposed to go to Mexico. Well, guess what we couldn't do? I couldn't be on a plane for that length of time. So, I think just, take your health, whether it's your spinal health or anything for that matter, take it seriously. Spend some time on your health. Be healthy. Think about how you can exercise, how you can eat a little better, how you can take better care of yourself. Because if you don't have that, you can be incredibly successful, incredibly financially successful, have all the money in the world. If you don't have your health, it's going to be very difficult to enjoy your life. So, unconditional love, take good care of yourself, and just love your friends, man. I mean, having your friendship has meant so much to me. It really helped me when I was in a dark place, and I thank you for that. And I have friends who have just been like, they've just been there for me. My friends, my family, I'm so grateful for that I think anytime that you can share that with somebody else, anytime you can help somebody, just take the time to do it.
Amen, brother. And the feeling is mutual, man. It's, I think it's the greatest gift in life, man, to have, those types of relationships that are give and take, man. Yeah. I've been in some rough spots when I came in to see you too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
In some tough positions, and you said it when we opened the show, but when you said it
what you want to do in your life.
When I started coming,
look at the people you spend the most time with in your life.
Where was my health?
Figure out if that
where has it been and where is it now? And that's what life is all about, man. You hit the nail on the head, and I'm grateful to have you in my life, not just as a person that's made me physically feel better, but someone that's always been an incredible ear, somebody to listen, somebody to make me feel better, both physically and mentally in a lot of situations that you probably don't even know, right? People come into your practice every day. You don't know what's going on in somebody's life, and that energy that you transfer to that person, mentally, in addition to physically, is a gift. And so, I don't want to make this a commercial about Finn Chiropractic, but I would be remiss if I didn't say, like, if anybody in the area of Pittsburgh is nervous about going to a chiropractor, you've never been to one, you've been experiencing back pain, I mean it when I say, these guys that work with Dr. Finn, the whole entire staff there, everybody is top notch, man. And you will feel better both mentally and physically when you walk out of that place. And that is what life's all about, man. Chaining together those little gifts that you can get that make your life better inch by inch. And that's what you're going to watch this guy do in the future here, right? Just taking what do they say? Man, God will take a mess and turn it into magic, right? Yeah, and that is what it's all about. And I'm excited, man, to be able to watch it, because I know that's exactly what you're going to do. And there is definitely a higher calling here that is pushing you in that direction. So, man, I appreciate you spending the time with me today and really sharing with people, because I know there's a lot of people that'll get a lot out of this, right? There's a lot of people that go through challenges, man. And I believe that not enough people are willing to share it because they think from the outside in that, makes them look weak or something. And it's the total opposite, right? The strength comes from sharing. It's therapeutic to share, to be honest, like to be able to talk through it and share it. And what happens is people come around and support that, right? Like, people want to be supportive when you're going through something. And so for me, man, it just means the world to me that you would spend this time, when you got a million things to do that you could be working on. So thank you from me, and thank you for taking care of me and my family for so many years, and look forward to many years to come. And I just can't wait to see what happens as a result of all of this, man. So
I appreciate it, Brian. Thank you.
Yep. And guys, until next time, this is another episode of Powerful Perspectives. As always, if you guys got value out of this, which I don't know how the heck you couldn't, if you got some value out of this, please do us a favor and share this episode, share it on your social media, share it through DM, share it via text. They make it super easy to share these things. And if you enjoy the podcast on a regular basis, please head over to iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, any of the other platforms that we broadcast this on, And please leave us a review and let more people find this podcast, and let's help more people find the perspective that will change their lives. Until next time, guys, this is another episode of Powerful Perspectives. Love you guys. Thanks for being here.